So, hi everyone. So, I'm Siddharth. This is a demo for Pega Certified Decisioning Consultant. Um, I myself have more than 10 years experience in Pega, primarily Pega Decisioning and Pega Marketing. So, this session is basically about why we want to pursue Pega Decisioning Consultant, right? And what is the advantage and of getting this certification? How do you get it? And what are the things you will learn in the course of this session, right? So the biggest question that everybody in the Pega world is asking now is why PCDC? So the reason is Customer Decision Hub, which is basically the brain of Pega now. So this is a framework now which comes with the core, and as part of this Customer Decision Hub, we have the core decisioning, we have the adaptive analytics, which basically involves creating and managing Pega adaptive models, self-learning models. Then we have the PAD, which is the Pega Predictive Analytics Director, which is for the predictive models, right? And the next best action framework. So Pega has merged all of these separate individual frameworks, added some new frameworks into the Customer Decision Hub. So the next best action framework, which you will hear quite frequently in our discussions, is the industry standard framework of Pega, which is used for recommending offers or recommending services or recommending what we call in business terms as prepositions. Again, a term that you will hear quite often, right? It helps in establishing a one-to-one customer connect. So in the world before Pega Decisioning and Pega Customer Decision Hub, what used to happen is we used to give a static set of offers to every customer. We never used to take their profile, customer profile into consideration, or their past behavior into consideration, or their attributes into consideration. And basically, it was like a one solution for all. There was no one-to-one customer connect. In this fast changing world now, this doesn't work. Every customer wants personalized response from the applications that they interact with, and these responses have to be relevant, contextual, timely, and consistent. Meaning, if I'm calling with relevancy, I will just explain each of these terms at a high level so that you get the context of what a decisioning is. So relevancy is basically that the solution that I'm asking, or the reason why I called customer care, the solution needs to be relevant in that time or that context. So basically, if I'm calling for to cancel my phone subscription, right? So the response of the customer care rep should be on that lines, right? Similarly, if I'm calling to buy a new product, so the response should be on those lines. So the response has to be contextual, right? Second, it should be time given. It should be quick. Nobody wants to wait a long duration of the time in today's world, right? And thirdly, it should be consistent. I need to get the same behavior from the application, irrespective of what channel I am calling from. It can be a phone, it can be chat, it can be SMS, whatever, right? So all these things we achieve through Pega Customer Decision Hub, right? Another main advantages of Pega Customer Decision Hub now is it comes as part of the core Pega frameworks, right? It sits on top of the core Pega framework. So we have seen a lot of traction, a lot of customers starting using Customer Decision Hub, right? And another advantage is earlier, it's on the same lines, right? Businesses were not able to balance their business priorities and customer expectation, right? So a business priority can be to make $2 profit in every sales transaction, right? But a customer which may not be what a customer wants, right? A customer will want to go for a lower dollar transaction, right, to satisfy his requirements, right? So what Pega does is, using the customer decision hub and decisioning, it can balance both of these things, right? So when we discuss about Pega strategies, you will come to know that Pega allows to balance the business priorities along with the customer expectations, right? And one of the other points is Pega marketing. That's another very popular framework of Pega. So to work on Pega marketing, you definitely need to know Pega decision, right? Because Pega marketing is built, it uses entirely the concepts of Pega decisioning and adds on top of it. Okay. So what are the prerequisites, right? So the prerequisites of Pega certified decisioning consultant is that he needs to be at least a CSA, right? He should be a Pega certified system architect. He should have the basics of Pega well known to him, right? He should be able to create and develop Pega applications, right? Then only he will be able to leverage the full strength and full advantage of Pega decisioning and customer decision. Okay. So what are the contents at a high level of this certification, right? As I was just talking in my previous slide. One of the major points is using the next best action, right? To implement Pega decisioning concepts. When we say next best action, is basically what the customer wants next, right? What is the next things that a call rep should recommend to the customer, right? These are the next best actions, right? Then next is defining and working with proposition hierarchy. So what a next best action does is it recommends the propositions in most of the business cases. It can recommend services also, but in most of the cases, it recommends propositions, right? So these propositions are what we call in layman terms offers, right? So like if you go to any website to buy products, right? You may want to buy a Samsung phone. Different models of the phones will be there, right? Samsung or iPhone, right? iPhone 10, iPhone 11, iPhone 13. So in Pega terms, these are all offers or what we call as propositions, right? So I will show you how to define and work with propositions, right? Okay. Then business strategies. So this is the brain of Pega decision, right? So every business, right, whatever be the either healthcare, telecom, retail, any business has a business strategy, right? Which will be known by the business analysts and so these business strategies are converted to Pega decisioning strategies, right? And with the advantage of these strategies, we balance the business priorities and customer demands and implement the Pega decision, right? So everything is one of the main pieces of Pega decisioning is Pega strategies, right? So inside these strategies, you have many shapes that we have and categories of shapes, right? Like arbitration, selection, data. We have the set priorities. We have the what you call enhancement shapes. So what all these shapes in detail we will go in our further classes, but effectively these shapes are that drive the strategy. So we have shapes to import the propositions, right? Then we have shapes to add data to these propositions, right? Then we have shapes to use Pega predictive and adaptive models because these models are also used in these strategies, right? Then we have shapes to prioritize the results. We have shapes to filter the results. We have shapes to run multiple strategies at the same time, which we call as champion challenger. And finally, we have the result shape. So all these shapes are used in a Pega strategy. And the final outcome is a set of propositions, a set of offers, which is basically the output of next best action, right? So in addition to this, there's another concept called data flows, right? So in Pega architecture, right, the next best action effectively calls data flows, and data flows call the strategies. Okay, so what are these data flows? As I said, like we used to have earlier Pega flows, right? Similarly, these are data flows which basically can take a segment or a report definition or a data set as input, right? And a Pega strategy can be run on top of it. So if you want to run strategies in a batch mode, right? Say you have a list of 100 customers and you want to see how a strategy recommends offers to these 100 customers in an offline mode, right? You will go with the data flow. Okay. Similarly, you have real-time data flows also, which are basically used in a real-time NBA interaction with the customer. What it does is when you invoke a next best action, it calls a Pega data flow, which calls your customized strategy and it returns you the offers, right? What the exam or what Pega decision also is how you test these strategies, right? Because strategies are a complex piece of code and design, right? It has a lot of business knowledge. So how do you test it, right? Similarly, how do you run simulations? Simulations are basically you can replicate real-time scenarios, how these strategies will behave when it moves to the actual live users, right? Along with these lines, we have something called VBD, Visual Business Director, right? What basically it does is it helps us to visualize how a strategy will respond to customer data, right? So you can use a VBD to compare to two simulations basically, or compare to every simulation gives you a data set, right? You can compare two data sets using VBD. Then we have something called PNL models, right? So as I said, Pega runs on two types of models, predictive and adaptive, right? So predictives can be spectrum models or scoring models, right? But adaptives are only scoring models. So I will get into the details of this in our next classes. But what it basically says is any kind of predictive model, right? So there is a industry standard language in which we define predictive models, which we call as PML. So we can import these models into Pega and use it in our business strategies. Okay, that's what we call as PML models. Similarly, we have something called event strategies, right? So these business strategies of Pega decisioning is not only when a customer calls or inbound or one-to-one. It definitely is, but it can also in that earlier example when I said customer call, these are basically customer initiated transactions, right? But Pega decisioning can also work on event strategies. When we say event strategies, is basically an event is basically an event that happens anywhere, right? Event can be a launch of a new product, right? Or something that happens in the world as such, right? Which generates a lot of traffic, say in Twitter or Facebook or any kind of tools, right? So these events Pega decisioning can also listen to these events, right? There is a way through that using event strategies. So effectively, it's the same thing, right? Event is fired, and the event in turn fires a next best action, right? Which in turn fires a data flow, which in turn fires a business strategy and returns the offers as a response to those events, right? Okay. So it is a way of polling mechanism, right? Not entirely a customer initiated one, but basically an event happens and a customer is linked to that event and we respond with offers. Finally, we also will work with interaction history. Right? So if you remember, I said before that it has every interaction with the customer has to be relevant, contextual, timely, and related, right? So in that context, if you try to understand, say basically a person, a customer called a company, right, and he was given few offers, right, and he rejected those offers, for example, right? And he comes back again, say within 2 days or 3 days, right? So in today's world, consumers or customers want their behavior tailored to their previous interaction, right? Or the previous communication or previous interaction they had with the company, right? So in the last time, if they had rejected the 3 offers, now the business may decide a plan that even if he comes the next, what you call, within 2 days or within 3 days or whatever, right? Based on the business goal, we want to show him offers that are related to those 3. Say for example, earlier I gave him iPhone 11, right? And now I want to give him iPhone 11s, right? But this decision is based on my previous interaction that I had with the customer, right? So how does Pega access that interaction, right? It is basically using something called the interaction history. So Pega has a combination, Pega decisioning has a combination of 6 or 7 tables, IH fact and IH, and a lot of those tables are there, right? So how do we access this data in the strategy is through the interaction history shape. With that shape, what you can do is you can access to a customer's last interactions. It can be 30 days, 60 days or whatever, right? It has a date parameter. And using that data, you can drive your business strategies and arrive at your next best offers. So you can treat a new customer differently, and you can treat a customer who's coming back after some time and it is not his first interaction differently. So Pega decisioning gives you this ability also, which is one of the most important and most useful abilities, which is not there in a lot of other parallel softwares, and makes customer decision hub stand out. Is the ability of it to store information and use it for later use, right? Okay, so let me show you our app now, right? So once again, let me I will go to my Pega application. Okay. So in this Pega application, give me 2 minutes, let it come up. Okay. Let me show you my application. So I have created a barebone Pega custom application, which has nothing but just the Pega rules core, right? Correct. As I said, a lot of decisioning concepts, a lot of decisioning ability comes as part of the core itself, right? We need to, there is a separate package for customer decision hub, which gives you ability for engage designer and all. But other than that, 90% of your Pega decisioning comes part of the core. Okay. So I just built up a basic application, and what I did, I created a customer data type, right? Which has nothing. It has just some basic attributes of a customer like age, ID, name, salary, state, right? Okay. So what I want to show you is the basics of Pega decision, right? Correct. So as I said, right, the core or the starting point of it is propositions, right? Correct. So if you go to decisioning, decisions, and proposition management hierarchy, right? You see here something called issue and groups. So this is something that you will always hear in Pega decisioning. What is your issue and what is your group, right? So these are business terms. So a proposition is basically in a hierarchical way is represented as an issue, a group, and then a proposition. So in my case, I have defined an issue called new sales. I have defined a group called annual. So this is my issue. This is my group. And inside the group, right, I have defined a proposition called proposition 1, right? Correct? You can define another proposition called proposition 2. Okay, so I added another proposition, right? Correct. So I will come to what are these fields and plan cost and all, right? So I would, this is basically, if you see here, this is, so we have an issue, we have a group, we have inside the group, we have two propositions, right? I showed you how we can create a proposition, but this is just the basic, right? A lot more goes into defining a proposition. You have to define fields, you have to define its attributes and a lot, right? I will explain these tabs to you in a later class, but here we are just seeing how we create a bare bone proposition, right? So I created one proposition, right? Then if we go to the decisioning node, we'll see a lot of these shapes, right? So adaptive model is basically what I told you about, right? Correct. Then you have something called strategies, right? Correct. And event strategy, right? These are the decision tree, decision table. This anybody can be come from what you call the core Pega modules of making a decision, right? Decision table, decision tree, and all. Correct? Decision data is basically whenever you create a preposition or a group, right? It creates a new. So I showed you here, right? If you go to, you see this class, this is actually a decision data, basically. So new sales is our issue, annual is our group. Inside it, we have created two propositions, right? Similarly, if you go and see another, let me close this and close this. Yeah, you can see if I go to my top level class, right? You can see your SR class. So whenever a strategy runs, right, it has a primary page and it runs on the context of the primary page, no doubt, right? And which is in all most of the applications is actually the customer, right? So that strategy runs as on the primary customer, but its output is of the strategy class, which is in our application this, right? So this means as soon as you create your application, this gets created. In case you want this to be a different, you can make it different, but it's recommended not to change it. It's basically an SR class, strategy class gets created, okay, which has some properties, predefined properties of Pega. If you see, it is of the decisioning class, an extension of the decisioning class. Okay. All right. So if I go to a strategy, right, I have created a strategy. I can again show you to create another one, right? So if you see, as I said, strategy is one of the most important parts of this Pega decision, right? So let me create my strategy, right? Remember we had defined an issue, right? We can also define whether this strategy belongs to one group or all groups. So in my case, I will leave it for all groups, right? Apply to class, as I said, has to be the customer. In my case, I've created a data class, work class, okay? But basically it should run on the customer context, okay? And let me just open it. All right. So a strategy is created, right? You see, it's on the customer class. And in my slide, I told you about the various shapes that are there. So we'll go over all of these in our classes. So we have sub-strategy, which can be external, embedded. You have the input shapes, how you import data. You have the rules, decision table, decision tree, map, split. You have the analytics with the predictive and adaptive. Scorecard, we don't use that much. We primarily use predictive and adaptive models. Enrichment, how you add data or add more attributes to a strategy. Arbitration, how you filter and prioritize the offers. Selection, how do you do champion, challenger, and switch. So what is champion, challenger, right? So champion, challenger, basically what happens is very, very important shape in Pega decisioning. So if you have two strategies, right, and you want both of them to be live in production, correct? But you want the traffic towards them to be what you call driven by Pega. So you want 70% of it to go on strategy A and 70% of it to go on strategy B. So then we use a champion challenger shape. We'll do some examples so it will be more clear to you, right? Switch is our standard switch statement, right? Aggregation helps us to aggregate data. So these are all various shapes that are there in Pega market, right? So for our today's class, let's do some basic shapes. So import proposition data, right? I have imported my proposition data, correct? What does it import? It imports everything from new cells, right? If you want to be more specific, you can take a group. You can only import one, but let's import both the propositions, okay? And let's add this to result shape, right? And let's test our strategy, right? So I'm just running it by default data transform. We will look into more of these, but you can run or test your strategy via using a data transform or a data set or a data. Okay. So let me just run it. So as you can see, we are able to see two offers, right? And the first proposition 2 and proposition 1, right? Correct? Plan cost. Okay. Now, for today's class, let's make some basic modifications, right? Let me add another shape called prioritize. Let me add this to prioritize, right? And prioritize value. It is on so I want to prioritize it by let me do before that, let me add a enrichment shape, right? Which is set property. Okay, so if you remember, we had a property called in my proposition something called plan cost, right? So let's try to order based on this, right? So we can access the what you call once again. Let me directly here. So basically it's a proposition property. Yeah, two things I wanted to show you. One is you can access the customer attributes here, right? Say name, age, salary, everything, right? So let's put the what you call age here, right? Correct. So you can move. So when you, right now we are doing a static strategy, but when you do actually a strategy via data flow, or when you call the strategy from application, you will be running it through for an individual customer, right? So that time you can move or you can update your strategy results with your customer attributes also, right? That is one way of having your strategy, making your strategy contain or making your offers contain offer data as well as the customer data, right? Plus you can use these attributes as filter conditions. So for example, um, I will go directly to prioritize. I don't need this here, right? So basically, what if I want a path, right? Let me show you a filter shape first, right? Right. Okay. So for example, if I want that only offer, so what is rank? Rank is your rank of your offers, right? Which is having value 1, 2, 3 and all, right? So if for example, I only want this now, only one output, only one output, right? If I make this filter as true, meaning everything pass, you will see, you will get what these shapes basically do. This filter, it filters out the unwanted results from the strategy. Correct. Similarly, if I want to use a prioritize filter, these are the two shapes that we will look today. We have a lot of other shapes and a lot of other uses that I will show you later. So for example, we can take any strategy attribute for now for prioritization. So for example, let me make it so before doing this, let me put it. Let me put a enrichment shape. So what I'm going to say is here, right? Set my this something called one second. No, okay. I'm going to give a logic, right? So what I'm saying is if my x rank is to 1, right? Then make my py node as 1, else make it 2. If x rank equals to 1, then give me 1 as output, else 2. Also here, my place rank is 1, give me 1, else it is py node. Let's get the top one. Now we will do a save and run. So you basically get only one offer, right? So what did you do? I did a set property shape, which basically adds or refines your strategy, enriches your strategy. That's why it's from an enrichment model, right? What it is doing for now, just for our demo purpose, I'm putting it in another attribute. I am doing a prioritization on that. Okay? Now, if I want top 2, right? So here you are prioritizing as well as you are limiting your content. That is the difference between filter shape and prioritize shape. Filter shape can only limit, but prioritize shape can prioritize as well as limit. See, now you're getting 2 offers, right? And with an order, right? You see the value note here. So note is 2 and the note is 1. So it is ordering based on note. Correct? Okay. Right? Because what we did, if you see here what we did, we said what is this PX rank? This is the rank that is coming from this shape. Okay. Every strategy shape has a rank of its own, or offers a rank of its own. It's your responsibility as a strategy designer to use this rank for your own advantage, right? So what I did was I said whatever rank I am getting, if it is 1, keep it 1, else make it 2, right? And then when I came here, I said you order based on lowest to highest to lowest. So descending order. If you want, you can make it ascending order, right? So let's see what happens if I make it ascending order. You will get the data with note 1 at the top. Yep, first offer. So it is ordering, limiting, right? So this is all the things that you can do in this strategy. There are a lot of shapes and a lot of use for them, right? Here what we did, we took an offer, took 2 offers, set some data on the offers, use it to prioritize and finally made it done. Yeah, so as I said, this is a basic example of creating and testing a strategy, right? Similarly, we have many other what you call shapes in here. As you can see, multiple groups we have. So we will go over each of these in our classes, right? Similarly, I will show you how to use Prediction Studio basically. So this studio has your adaptive models and predictive models will appear in this studio. So it's like earlier you had admin studio and desk studio. Now you have prediction studio also, right? So basically from here you can go ahead and create a predictive model, adaptive model, and some NLP stuff as well. Okay. So this is what we have. So as the next step, if so any questions, if anybody has, you can share it with us. So our Pega decisioning journey will have all these what you call steps or all these stops, right? Starting from designing strategies and propositions to running them to testing them, working with adaptive models, predictive models, and all these things, right? Yeah. So with that, I would complete my demo for today. Hope to see you all soon in the next few classes. Thank you.